Hello everyone. In this video today we're going to be taking a look at an article from the Daily Wire written by Elliot Hamilton, published on August 17th. Now leftists want to rename Boston's Faneuil Hall. Trump vindicated once again. Now I find this subtitle pretty friggin' interesting, considering that the Daily Wire is Ben Shapiro's little media empire, and if anyone's been following his Twitter feed, he's been on a bit of a tirade. He's been between the Trump bashing and him trying to distance himself with the alt-right. It's actually kind of pathetically funny. It's both. You can't decide which it's more, pathetic or funny. It's just really bad. I mean, you know, Charlottesville, very bad tragedy, okay, with what happened there. The whole person running the car into the crowd should never have happened. Okay, the death of the girl, the woman, I should say, should never have happened. The fact that they allowed Antifa and BLM on one side to clash with the people that Unite the Right, which shouldn't have even been called that. That should never have happened. They had other entrance exit areas of that park to send those people out where there wasn't going to be the Antifa BLM crowd. They wouldn't let those people leave through those entrances or exits, however you want to look at it. They escorted them out right into where Antifa and BLM was, and then stood down. When you have that being the case, that's pretty messed up. Now, President Trump, I want to say, was right on calling out all sides, because you can't give the left a pass and say, oh, well, they were protesters, or, oh, well, they were activists, because those are the terms that leftist, even some like right-leaning mainstream media are using. And they're referring to, like, more so the alternative, but even like CNN, fake news, they're referring to the situation as Nazis versus activists type stuff. And yes, there were racists there. I mean, you had the, what was it, the National Socialist Workers Party, I think it is, which is a white supremacist organization, and they're socialists. They shouldn't have even been at a supposedly right-leaning gathering. You had white identitarians, which are no different than BLM if you go by the, well, they're not racist, well, they're not black supremacist. If you go by those claims, white identitarians are no different. But because of this situation in Charlottesville, with those people clashing, and what I'm getting at is you had two sides clashing, you now have people on the left pushing for ridiculous things. And I know I've gone on for almost 4 minutes at this point with this. But I just wanted to say, because of this, we now have this lunacy. And there's a big amount of distance between Faneuil Hall and Virginia. There's a big difference between Charlottesville and Boston in distance. Okay? So to see this as a New Englander born and bred, I couldn't believe it, because I've been to Faneuil Hall. Okay? I can't believe that they're looking to do this. Following various calls to remove Confederate statues and George Washington's name from public parks, a leftist group now seeks to remove the name of Faneuil from the famed Faneuil Hall in Boston, Massachusetts. Peter Faneuil, a wealthy merchant and original Bostonian, meaning this man helped to create the city of Boston. He was one of the founding fathers of the city. Okay? He accomplished a lot of positive things. Boston would not be what it is today if not for this man. Okay? Peter Faneuil was a wealthy, as an original Bostonian. He proposed the hall in 1740, and it has served as a meeting place and shopping and dining destination since the mid-18th century. Called the Cradle of Liberty, the hall has played host to a number of historic events, including the launch of a campaign to give blacks the right to vote following the Civil War. So, this is a place that has a lot of significant historical meaning to it. And they're going to go and just willy-nilly go, oh yeah, well, let's change it. I mean, it's disgusting. But Kevin Peterson, the leader of the New Democracy Coalition, told a group of reporters following a post-Charlottesville prayer service that his organization wishes to change the famed revolutionary building name because Peter Faneuil, a Revolutionary War hero and building's namesake, was a known slave owner and trader, and the building was partially funded by profits from his slave trade. Yeah. A lot of things were at least partially funded by the slave trade in this country. It's regrettable, but it's a fact of life. This man is a Revolutionary War hero. I'm sorry, but that fact alone trumps your feelings about him being involved in owning and trading slaves. I mean, it really does. Because this man did more good than he did bad. He helped found the city of Boston and make it into what it is. He was an important person on the note of being a hero in the Revolutionary War. This is a man that's accomplished great things. Now, if we want to go by the fact that you do one bad thing and it's all over for you and your name should be destroyed and your life should be ruined, and then we should look at the fact of, if that's the case, then the Clinton name shouldn't be worth like toilet paper. If it was on a piece of toilet paper, it would, or any type of paper, we'll say. I mean, the only thing that Clinton signature would be good for is to wipe your ass, if we went by the standards these people want. Bill Clinton is a rapist. And Hillary Clinton helped him, get away with his crimes. So, are we going to rename the Clinton Presidential Library? That might be a good thing to do by your logic. Oh no, that's right, he's a Democrat and blind-eyed. So what if this is the case here, where part of his money funded Faneuil Hall? It's been a place for a lot of good over the years. He should be given credit for that as well. He created a place that allowed for civil rights, to be looked at after the Civil War. A place where people felt safe. To look at getting the voting rights set up and given to blacks. According to Peterson, The fact that Faneuil Hall still bears his name is an embarrassment for the notoriously progressive city. Aha! Which is where we get into this whole thing of, because Boston is quote-unquote a progressive city. Actually, it's a regressive city. As a New Englander who's been there a few times in his life, it is a leftist shithole. That's putting it nicely. When you have the police chief of the Boston Police Department believing that you don't have a right to defend yourself in your home. And the thing is Massachusetts with its gun laws, for example, is very restrictive. And Boston, kind of like Chicago, will try to put more restrictions on them. And one of the things that is really hard to get is a permit to have pistols. Regardless of a concealed carry permit. We're just talking about a permit to own them. So it's easier to get a permit to, say, have a shotgun or a rifle. And shotguns are perfectly acceptable for protection in your home. And the police, experts will tell you, they actually work for home protection in certain cases better than having a pistol. Now, with that, he actually has the audacity to go and say that shotguns are not a weapon for home defense. Knowing he's lying out of his ass. That's progress for you. Okay? It is not progressive. Progressive would be the cradle of the revolution. Progressive, like classical liberal. Not this shit that it's turned into. Here in this very place, on this very ground, we see an embarrassment to the community of color in Boston. An embarrassment to white people of good mind and good spirit in Boston, because this place is named after a man who engaged in the sale of human flesh, and we should, quite frankly, we should be quite frankly embarrassed by that. I've called on the mayor in recent months to look into renaming this building. It is an embarrassment to this city to remain focusing on this place as a place of celebration, as a place of which we should have some civic pride with this name attached to it. Well, clearly, you don't know what the fuck it means to be a Bostonian. Clearly, you don't know what the fuck it means to be a New Englander, okay? Most Bostonians, like hardcore Bostonians, go out in front of Faneuil Hall, and now I'm going to start talking like a Bostonian here. Okay? Well, actually, that was more New York. Okay. Noah's. Okay, so park the car. So you're going to go and you're going to go talk to a Bostonian. And you're going to tell them that this Bostonian can't call that place Faneuil Hall. They're going to tell you to go fuck yourself. Even if you change the name of this place, you freaking moron. Okay? And you should know this if you are a Bostonian, you shit brick moron. You should know this if you're a New Englander. Okay? You change the name of that place, and out of fucking spite, they're going to call it Faneuil Hall. Because, a good example, the Boston Garden. Okay? We're talking about the Boston Garden here. We're talking about an historic venue. And in that historic venue, you had a lot of history. A lot of people were furious and resentful in the city of Boston that they tore it down. So, they build this great, new, and improved, modern venue for basketball, concerts, all that. First name of the place. What was it called? The Shawmut Center. Then the Fleet Center. Then the TD Bank North Garden. Which, do you want to know why it ended up being the TD Bank North Garden? Which people don't even call it that. Well, actually, then it became the TD Garden. But through that whole name change thing, okay, between like, say, the endorser name or owner name, like mergers or whatever. The reason for the name change from Center to Garden is because people called it the Boston Garden, even though it was the Showman said, "Oh yeah, you're going." Yeah, I'm going to the Boston Garden. And if you said the Showman said, "No, it's the Boston Garden," because it was out of fucking spite. So go ahead, you little pissant bitch. Okay, go ahead, change the fucking name. I dare you. Okay? Because you're just going to piss off people that are from Boston, that are from New England. They're all going to go, fuck you, and they're going to call it Faneuil Hall just to piss you and your little leftist buddies off. And I'm going to sit there and laugh while you whine and cry like a little bitch and require a safe fucking space. Because they'll do that. And I'll be watching and fucking cheering, you moron. You know what? Fuck you. Peterson proposes to rename Faneuil Hall after Crispus Attucks, who was one of the 5 martyrs slaughtered by British soldiers in Boston in the Boston Massacre on March 5th, 1770. Attucks, who was African and Native American descent, is widely considered to be the first American killed in the Revolution. Yeah, true. But did he build the fucking thing? No. Did he make it happen? No. Did he make the city of Boston, to set it up to help it become what it became today? No. Okay, and I hate this Native American shit because, you know what? It's a proven fact that they came across a land bridge, Bering Strait type shit. So they're not native. I should say my ancestors weren't native. At one time, they immigrated here. So I'm American fucking Indian and I'll own that fucking shit. And you know what? I got no problem with being called Faneuil Hall. We're going to call it Attucks Hall. We're going to call it Crispus Hall. Fuck you, dude. I mean, seriously. Who the fuck do you think you are? And I apologize for my language. But this guy's got some balls on him. At least when it comes to this shit, because if he actually said this to a bunch of Bostonians, they would be like I am going, fuck you. Go to hell. The demand represents a continuation of a trend that President Trump mentioned during his controversial press conference on Tuesday. He called out the far-left's selective outrage on tearing down Confederate statues as opposed to other individuals associated with racism, slavery, or other social wrongs that Americans committed centuries before, and warned that it was only a matter of time before leftists began demanding other American heroes be erased from history for their transgressions. So Trump said the following. You had people in the group who were there to protest the taking down of to them a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down statues of George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? Do you like him? Are we going to take down his statues because he was a major slave owner? Now, here's the thing. Trump is like fucking psychic. Because literally right after this shit happened, I highly doubt the stupid fuck who brought this up and said we should do this. He's a pastor, from Illinois? No. Where the hell is it? It's up on the Great Lakes. But he's like, this is a black neighborhood and there shouldn't be a park named George Washington. We should get rid of this. This guy literally, right after Trump says, what's George Washington next? Goes, yeah, we're going to take down George Washington. Why don't you just get rid of all the founding fathers, you leftist Marxist fucks? Oh, that's right. That's what you're going to try doing next. Because you want to eradicate the history of these people who created freedom and the society that has allowed this nation to create an actual middle class. One of the only nations in the world, and like the first nation to create a middle class, an actual middle class. It was because of what those people did that made it possible for that to happen. So much so that the model is being followed around the world on the note of free market and some of the ideas that they had. So this is just beyond offensive. Yeah, well, let's just go for like Washington and Jefferson and fuck Sam Adams. Let's get rid of him. Let's get rid of Paul Revere because Bissell, he actually went further. Let's wipe Paul Revere out of history because, he got the credit and Bissell should have. I mean, people will learn about Bissell, but Paul Revere's the one he had. I mean, you listen to the poem, it was kind of like, well, I got this dude Bissell and I got to try to come up with a rhyme with it. No, I only got like whistle. So, yeah. I mean, what's next? Daily Wire editor Ben Shapiro, who I've got a bone to pick with for his Trump derangement lately, correctly stated that these issues are up to local and municipal governments rather than the entire nation. However, the issue remains that many on the left will not stop until every individual associated to some degree with racism or slavery is removed from public settings, even if it changes the historical character of the communities at large. Individuals like Peterson represent the continuation of a problem that will see no end until everyone falls in line with the virtue signaling campaign to desensitize history as it should be remembered. See, on that type of note, one of the reasons why, or actually I'm going to give a couple reasons why, I think the left with like the Democrats are so adamant about going after the whole Confederacy statue thing and eradicating Confederate history altogether is because there's two things that they're trying to get rid of when it comes to them and their relation to it. You have the fact that slavery, the fact that the Civil War in the South is a Democrat thing. That's all on them. So when you have that, then you have the fact of the history that those monuments teach, because they're the ones that perpetrated all those things, and they've tried to push them off on the right. But if you have the monuments there, no matter how much you revise the actual history, okay, you do the Marxist revision and whitewash things or completely remove it or completely change things. As long as you have a physical monument there, it has someone actually want to know why it's there. And that's what they don't want. Because they don't want people to look into the fact of what the Democrats were and what they did on the note of the South and slavery and all that. Because then if blacks actually did that, they'd go, wait a minute, I'm kind of on the plantation right now. I gets a handout, I votes Democrat, which is my job, and they feed me and they clothes me, and they might wake up. And I apologize for the stereotypical voice, but I'm just trying to prove a point. Now, on the other note, if you actually look at the history, and I know I'm going to get, if you've made it this far through the video, I know I'm going to get a bunch of hate from people who haven't studied the actual history of the Civil War. The Civil War wasn't about slavery until well into the Civil War. And that was at the point when Lincoln was losing. And he had nothing to lose, and he was actually hoping that it would get more support in the North, because he was losing the war, he was losing support, and that's when he made it about slavery. That's when he did, like, the Emancipation Proclamation, for example. Because leading up to the South seceding, there was no push in the United States, okay, for the end of slavery. And the reason that is because the South needed it for their economy, even though most people didn't own, I mean, it was less than 1% owned slaves. They still needed the slavery for their economy. See, the North had set things up to make it so that the South was dependent. I mean, the South couldn't export, like, say, cotton directly to Europe. Things like that. So the North was exploiting the South. And those things are what actually led to the 3/5 compromise. I suggest you go look it up. Or the 3/5 rule. And what happened is from there, things were still were bad, where you had exploitation going on from the North. And the South finally said, the hell with this. And there were actually people in the South that wanted to end slavery. So this wasn't like an exclusively Northern thing. And because of the North exploiting the South, okay, that monument is there saying, look, this war happened because the North took advantage of the South. Yes, slavery was a part of it, and it was a bad thing, but this is what we want you to focus on. If you look at that, we have parallels today. Because look at how California and New York treat the rest of the country. If they had their way and got rid of the Electoral College, those two states would dictate everything to the rest of this country. And that's what those monuments are there to say. Look, you can't let this shit happen, because it will literally break this country up. But the left, they clearly don't want you to see that and have that in your back of your head and go, well, shit, because then you might actually think rationally. Anyways, I think I've made my point. So I'm going to end this video here. If you like the video, hit thumbs up or the upvote, depending on where you're watching it. If you like my content, subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, please ring that bell, and hopefully I'm not like in my own little censored area. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I appreciate it, and you all have a good one.